The name Cambuslang derives from the Gaelic, Camus meaning bend in the river and lang meaning long. It is known as the largest village in Scotland with a population of approximately 24,500 people and incorporates Newton, Halfway and Flemington. The geography explains a great deal of its history. Over a period of time it has been very prosperous, depending firstly upon its agricultural land, supplying food, wool and linen, then the mineral resources under its soil, limestone and coal, and to some extent iron and steel. However, this is no ordinary trip back in time, and our journey starts here.
The first meeting was on the 1st of July 1975, and it was actually up in my mum and dad's house in 65 Kyle Court. I think it was a midweek, I'm quite sure, a Tuesday or Wednesday, and basically the people that were at the meeting had a wee format of what they would like to be discussed at the first meeting, i.e. the priority was the name of the band, which there was a couple of inputs, the kind of general week-to-week running of the band, and also how they would go about raising capital, uniforms, and just really in general try to outset a projected vision that would maybe take them up for the July to maybe even the new year, because we weren't looking too far ahead at that time. It was really just to get the thing up and running.
Obviously we discussed a lot of things. There wasn't a lot of us, right? We worked it out, we tried it, but the very first meeting was Mrs. McIntosh's house.
The success of this meeting resulted in a constitution being drafted, with a committee elected and put in place. There was still one final piece of important information that needed to be fitted into the jigsaw, and that was a name.
It was a kind of general agreement by everybody that Young Conquerors was a name that everybody kind of took to. There was other suggestions thrown in on the night. The usual True Blues, No Surrender, and tried a Cambuslang stuff and all that. But in general, it never even went to a vote. It was more or less just decided that Young Conquerors was a name that was different. Although there had been a couple of Young Conquerors prior to our own one, certainly in Northern Ireland. But it was just a feeling that we thought, aye, we'll go with that, Young Conquerors it is. We,
as a band, had to look for something a bit more different from the normal, you know, Sons of All and Sons of all this thing. You know, we just felt we needed something a wee bit different, and we looked at a lot of options, and we came up with that. And myself and Archie felt that was more appropriate than a lot of other things.
The talk was over, and it was now time to put the theory into practice. But first there was a small issue of acquiring instruments for the members to use for that same purpose.
A lot of the flute section had their own flutes, bits and bobs they'd picked up over the years, handed down. It was quite a bit, the flute section itself was quite a bit of a mix and match, because we certainly had no money to buy instruments. Most of the boys had flutes, bits of flutes, and we'd done them up to a capability that they were playable, certainly for a practice anyway. On the drum side of things, we actually got a load of drums off a BB company. I think it was Kirkhill Old Parish Boys Brigade up that way, and we got 3 snare drums, and we got a bass drum for them, a kind of blue mother of pearl, and then we picked up another couple of black mother of pearl side drums from various bands that had kind of donated them to us. And so it was definitely a mix and match for the instrument wise.
Things were running smoothly. With everyone coming together, the band managed to procure the use of the Cambuslang Institute for practicing, and it gave the members the chance to get together and work on a selection of tunes.
There was a lot of, everybody had a different idea and their own way they wanted to play. Some band members wanted to play really slow, double drumming. Other band members wanted to have a faster jig time beat. So yeah, there was a lot of heated discussions, shall we say, until we got it right. But there was a lot of experience in the band too. Although it was a new band, there was a lot of experience. We did have some new members, i.e. what I mean is learners, but the majority of band personnel had previous links with one band or another. So yeah, it wasn't easy, but we went along getting it thrashed out, and we got a kind of standard that we wanted to play with.
With various places, right? The wee street down at Swans, they used to call it Swans. There's a wee lane in there, and that's where the Orange Hall was at first. And that's where we were. And then we went, we had umpteen places. We had the Institute for a long time, Cambuslang. We ended up going into Rutherglen at the Stonelaw High School. Just various places, wherever we could. We never had a practice hall ourselves. We never had anywhere we could say, like the band now has their own property. We didn't have that. Things were different in the days.
Well, slowly at first, because it was, you know, you mentioned several bands here that all played with different styles. Personally, I had played for the 8 or 9 years before the band started with an accordion band. Hadn't played with a flute band for about 10 years before the band started. But it started to come together, and it came together, and the young conquerors developed a style that was theirs.
Accordion drummers want to play a flute section, right? It's not always an easy thing. It's no easy changeover, right? With other boys came from different bands. We had John Gardner. John was at primary school with me. He was at secondary school with me. But when I went at Cambuslang Primrose, John was with Rutherglen Bluebell for a number of years. And then John came and joined us and went us. It was a mix and match. We got there.
All the practicing was paying off, and the band secured its first gig in the Whole Park Social Club in Tabernacle Lane. This was to be the first of many that the band would play here.
We never had any sort of ambition to play in 1975. We always knew that the work we were putting in, we would hopefully see on the street in the year after, in 1976. But a wee window of opportunity opened up, and after a wee bit of negotiation with some of the older members of the band and some of the Whole Park committee on the day, we managed to kind of wangle a wee Saturday afternoon up in the Whole Park Social Club. It was ideal. It was the middle Saturday in between Christmas and New Year. I think if you look back at the calendar, I think it's the 27th December, but it was a middle Saturday. So everything being busy with the Christmas period going into New Year, we were due to play. So we get the slot on the Saturday afternoon, and that was us. I think we got about 2 weeks' notice, that was all. So we were all very excited about it. We turned up, there was no uniforms, but then again a lot of bands didn't wear uniforms when they played in clubs in those days. So we turned up, took a deep breath and gave it our best shot, and I can remember it to this day. The place was jumping, absolutely jumping, and you couldn't ask for a better introduction of the band playing together than that Saturday afternoon. It'll always live with me. Great performance for the Young Conquerors.
The week between Christmas and New Year, 1975. It was never intended. It was never a target. It was never something we were honestly quite convinced that we would never play anywhere in public in 1975. But the opportunity arose and we took it, and it was a good day. It really was a good day. The band played well. I remember that quite clearly. It was well received, and of course, in these days, on a Saturday afternoon with a band playing in the whole park, it was standing room only. The place was absolutely mobbed.
Even though the band had been fortunate enough to be given flutes, drums, etc., these still needed some remedial work, and on top of which was the cost of hiring the hall for practicing. Therefore, much needed revenue was sought after and had to be made a priority.
The fundraising came for various. There was quite a big, although there was never any women actually played with the band, the women that were partners of band members and used to come to the band were really instrumental. They were absolutely wonderful in raising cash, because they would have bingo nights and dance nights and all sorts of fundraising issues. And you know, they like say, they would have wee nights every week where they would go to one another's house and have a wee bingo night, and they would bring their own raffles, and then they would organise wee nights up the club. So the women were absolutely out of this world. As for other funding, you've really got to remember that the whole Park Social Club had only opened up a year, and it was a very, very busy social club in those days. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that enabled us to run raffles and fundraising events more or less at our will, because we had a very good rapport with the committee in the whole park and the Orange Lodge. So there was never any problem. The money started coming in, and quite fast, I might add. So we went along and getting a kind of healthy bank book.
Raising finance was hard in the days. We did not have the opportunity as bands have nowadays, i.e. internet, the various things. And had we wanted to make a recording or anything like that, we'd need to hire the hall. We'd need to hire somebody to do it, and it would cost. But in present day, it doesn't work that way. The bands are far, far more better off than we ever were. Our finance in the days were, we had wives, mothers, for all the band members, and they used to have a wee bingo. For every bingo session, the band donated a half bottle of vodka, and that was the main prize too. But see, the ladies, the wives, mothers, all they did was have wee bingos, right, in the houses every other week, and that's how we made our money. We didn't have the finance then as the bands have got now. So it wasn't very easy, but we got there. We also had the district. You know, the district, everybody in the district gave us a donation of some sort. We got there. But it was hard, but it was enjoyable.
with a lot of support that the band had at the time through 40 District, the Old Park Social Club, wives, girlfriends, mothers of the members of the band raised loads of money, and quite quickly I might add. The band members actively worked in various pubs and clubs about Cambuslang selling raffles and football cards and things like that, and the money went quite well.
The first uniform consisted of your own black trousers, white shirt with a sky blue pullover and red Tom Jones style bow tie, which was supplied by the band. Black shoes and socks finished off the dress code.
When we got our light blue jumpers in 1975, 1976, because we never paraded as a band in 1975. We certainly felt quite comfortable with the light blue. We went for light blue because there was never anybody round about had light blue.
Regarding uniforms, we didn't have a lot of options on that, right? We knew fine well that it would have to be white shorts, black trousers, because we didn't have the finance. So what we did was we went and I don't remember where we got the jumpers, but we get Saks blue, and that it was Saks blue, no light blue, Saks blue, and we got them to make, and that was the Saks blue was your first colour. And then we went to a shop on Argyle Street or whatever, and we purchased Dickie bows. Now the Dickie bows were Tom Jones style, right? Deep red, and they were yon size, right? And that was the band's uniform for about maybe 2 years till we got ourselves sorted.
In 1978, a new uniform was introduced, and this saw the sky blue jumper being replaced by the introduction of a blue tunic. However, it was still down to each member to supply their own trousers, shoes and shirt.
We made the initial jump for the light blue jumpers to the royal, we call it royal blue blazers, tunics in 1978. And I can remember quite clearly going in and picking them up with Stuart McDougall on the Friday night before the Juvenile Walk in 1978, out of a tailor somewhere in Glasgow. So nobody had the blue tunics until more or less the morning, but fortunately enough it was a good enough fit. We never attached to go with the tunics for morals. We just walked in the royal blue blazers for that particular year, but it was quite it was definitely a step in the right direction, and we all knew that because we were moving up the ladder. We had moved on for the sweaters and the jumpers onto blue blazers, so we felt very proud when we started that parade on the Saturday morning at Juvenile Walk, who incidentally we were actually walking with Rutherglen that year, and I can remember us coming down past the Quarry Bar, and all the other bands and lodges were there, and we walked down with our new blazers on. It was very satisfying.
The blue jackets, they had their own black trousers, right? And there was flares, non-flares and what those were in the days, you know what I mean? I mean, you go back 40 years now. I don't really remember as to how we got this name or whatever. We went to Howard Street in Glasgow, right? And it was a tailor, and his claim to fame was he made suits for Derek Johnson, the Rangers. So we got the blue jackets made, right? The 2 wee red bands and blah blah and witness one. Smart looking. No by today's standards, but then They were smart looking. We knew one day and it rained. And it rained. And it rained. Honestly. We were soaking and we were in Wishy, I think, if I believe. And we come back and we hung them, all the jackets got hung over the back of the chairs. We went back out, it was the blacks. We went back out, put them on, still wet. See, the next time we went to band practice, we had, the boys are going, let's see my jacket. The jackets were, they were bubbled, terrible. So we took them back into the guy and he said, made us another set. The first time the rain, we didn't even go to rain. What we did was we put a shower thing on it, one of them, and that just did the same thing. So we get rid of him, right? We still stuck with the blue, and we moved on from there, away from this guy in Howard Street. Whatever the case may have been.
It would be a further 6 years before the band purchased their first full uniform. This was a blue suit with red trims and white shirts, the usual black socks and shoes to finish it off. By 1984, many of the young conquerors were becoming old conquerors, and so the band decided on a change of name.
We put the option up to the boys and say, look, listen lads, there are too many of us getting too old. I seemed young conquerors were kind of wrong. So what we did was we thought, we need to change the name of the band, surely. Most of us were, far too many of us were too old to be young. So we changed the name of the band. But we're getting silly requests, right? And Archie goes, what is it? So, my choice is Britannia, and that's it. And he goes, you happy with that? He goes, aye. Archie goes, brilliant, that'll do me.
Again, it was more just a progression than anything else. We had played for 1975 with the name Young Conquerors, and we were now hitting 1984. So we were 9 years down the road, and we had more or less the same personnel, give or take, and the Young Conquerors of 1975 were really beginning to get a wee bit more like Old Conquerors. So I suppose it was really just common sense to change the name of the band. We were no longer young boys anymore. We had the best part of 10 years below our belt. So the band made the decision that they would change the name to Britannia. And the last time, just for the record, that the band ever worked with the name Young Conquerors was the first Saturday in October 1984, and it was actually a parade with RBP 590, and we walked from casting shops right down through Waterburn into Cambuslang, and at the finish of that parade the Young Conquerors was no more, and we had automatically changed to Britannia.
At this point, we would like to take a moment to remember that with the good times there is always the sad, and the band have had their fair share. We have seen members come and go, and some that will never return. These brave souls have now joined the ranks of their heavenly brothers, people such as Alistair Vaughan, Billy Butler, John Gardner, Jackie Gray, Jimmy Dick, George Burnett and Stuart McIntyre. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we shall remember them.
It really saddens me to hear anybody dying, but band members, I mean, I'll mention members who have died, passed away, and they've all been a lot younger than me, so I don't know what the script is. Maybe I'm doing penance for being a bad boy running this band for all the years. But no, John Gardner, John, as I said previously, John and I went to primary school, we went to secondary school. John played with Rutherglen Bluebell for a number of years, and then came and joined us. Sadly, we lost John quite early. I apologise for not being able to give you dates because I really don't know, but we lost Napper. Napper was Willie Butler. Willie came from hospital, and when I don't know what happened, Willie he left the band, and the next time we heard he was passed away. Big Jake and Dickie, to me, Laurel and Hardy, the two of them gave me a terrible hard time. I don't mean that in the bad sense. Laurel and Hardy made movies. Big Jake and Dickie could have did that without trying to make movies, you know what I mean? These guys were absolutely tremendous, and they were brilliant. There wasn't a bad bone in their name and what knows what. It was sad to lose them. And then we had Big George Burnett. He went to sleep one night after a night and didn't wake up. We've had a lot of good times, and we've had the sad moments, and that's really the sad moments.
They were all good lads. Big Jackie was a clown. Another three that sort of all come into one category was Jimmy Dick, George Burnett and Billy Butler, because they went so fast. You know, Jackie had been out for a while. John Gardner, a previous member, an early member, one of the original members of the band. John was out for a while before he passed away. But as I said, Jimmy Dick, George Burnett, Billy Butler just went quick, and that was mere a shock, and they were all reasonably young men. As I sit here at my age, they were certainly young men.
Yes, a lot of good memories of people that are sorely missed. Jimmy Dick, Jackie Gray, George Burnett, Zuni McIntyre. 4 guys that are lit up your life when you seen them. They were fantastic. Great characters, great bandsmen, long service in the band. You can't fault any of them for anything. They're sorely missed. They're really
The
good
story
characters.
continues with the introduction of a new uniform, which saw the old blue being replaced by a red, and the ties were now black with Britannia printed on them. The Blackville Morals with their red plumes added that little extra to the appearance, and it was a proud band that got to wear these.
The red uniforms were actually bought for what would have hopefully have been, the band didn't actually go, would have been the 300th year centenary of the Battle of the Boyne. There was a big parade in Northern Ireland that year in 1990 to mark the 300 year centenary, and the band wanted to go over as a band. So about a year before that, they started making decisions of how they would like to change or upgrade the uniform. As I said, it was the blue, although it was a kind of statutory colour for the Britannia, they wanted to change it, i.e. with this big parade in mind. Unfortunately, the band didn't actually go to that parade. Quite a lot of the members went individually, but the band never went. But by that time we'd got measured up, and we had went down to, I think it was the county we went to, the county bar. Victor Stewart came over and measured us up for the red uniforms, and that's what we had. And as far as we kept that for until 1996.
The band members maybe felt it was certainly due a wee change, something different, right? So we went for red. I didn't disagree with it, but I disagreed with certain aspects of it, right? Archie and I made a wee difference to the actual uniform as such, and if it took 2 bland colours to 3 colours, and they made the whole thing far better looking. According to the tailor who did it, he was in agreement with that. Red was I just felt the band, the boys felt maybe they were due a wee change, you know what I mean? And that was that's the way it went.
Early 1985, the band decided on a more military style of uniform with a radical change in colour, as we plumped for an olive green with red trims. The introduction of DMS boots meant for the first time in the band's history everyone wore the same footwear. This uniform went on to serve us for 10 years.
At the start, because people thought green, we don't want to be wearing green, but that quickly died out when the reception it got, and when even those who didn't like to wear the colour saw how it made the band stand out for the heart. That quickly changed and it became acceptable.
There's a band in Tigers Bay that had either folded or were moving on, and they had a full set of uniforms. This was a khaki green with red trims and yellow, and we decided it was time for a new one because the red uniform was actually worn out. So we purchased them, and then everybody got a uniform each. Didn't get doing well with the people in the street. A lot of the band were against it, but finally we were settled in, and everybody seemed to enjoy wearing this new khaki colour, and it made the band stand out for every other band.
I looked at there was a khaki colour, so there was red involved, there was gold involved, and people said, who do you think you are? Cambuslang Britannia never thought they were anybody. They definitely didn't think they were anybody. All they done was they went and got a uniform, and they adapted the khaki colour, which in my eyes, I don't know, maybe in 2016 we could possibly maybe look at that and go back to that. The gold and the red needed to go. It looked, in my eyes, looking in, it looked horrible. It definitely, the red needed to go, the gold, definitely, it showed where we were trying to go as a military style band. We tried to adapt a colour. The khaki was good. The khaki was really, really good. It showed us everywhere we went. There was people who didn't like it. I liked it because it showed us is here comes the Britannia.
The following year, another first in the band's illustrious history, saw a colour party being added to give the band another dimension to their ranks. The time came for another change, and a smart new uniform was designed. Keeping the khaki for the jackets, we reverted back to the more familiar looking black trousers.
To be something, you know, we needed a new uniform, and it was just to get a change. You know, change is something that the band, like any organisation, needs to take on board and continually develop.
I think if memory serves me right, it was to keep the kind of base colour of our uniform, because we had khaki for a number of years, but to bring it more modern and, you know, bring it into line with, I think it was 2005 we got that. So it was to bring it into line with a wee bit more modern and upbeat, and they did the other one for a few years, so it was, new uniform was needed. So
it was a couple of years down the line, and the band decided we need a new uniform again. There was so many suggestions put in. The colour was going to stay khaki, but there were so many different suggestions, and what happened was the tailor decided in his infinite wisdom that he would make up a uniform of parts. One arm was different from the other arm, the two sides of the front were different, the backs were different, the collar at each side was different, and to a man we all went in and we picked what we liked the best, and nearly everybody picked the same pattern: the left cuff, say, the right arm, the left breast, the back and the collar. With the choice between olive hearts and black, nearly everybody picked to the black, and we went back to the black trousers because with the chance of khaki or black, and everybody thought black was nicer, and it turned out to be a really, really beautiful uniform, and it was a privilege to wear that one.
yeah, here we go. But when it goes back to the khaki colour, I would have loved the Cambuslang Britannia to stay khaki. There was a lot of people saying, oh, it's green, it's this, it's that, and I thought, it is only green.
This was complemented by the use of new Miller wick flutes made from black African cocos. These took a little time to reach their potential, but when they did, the tone made it all the more worthwhile.
Well, it was the first time we had actually bought a set of match flutes. for the band. We had been buying flutes all the years, but they were the mixer and matching. When the band started, the majority of the people who joined the band had their own flutes, and we were buying flutes where we could for those that didn't, as we got money in. But when we bought the Miller Wicks, it was the first time we'd ever bought a complete set of match flutes for the band.
The band had the money, and we decided it was time we had new flutes. Since the start of time, the band had always been playing second-hand flutes, borrowed flutes, and broken flutes that had been mended, new springs, new keys, the corks all missing inside, and plumber's tape holding them together. And the money came in, so we decided we'll try and get new flutes, and the chance came that we get Miller Wicks. We get 20 of them, and what a difference. They all sounded the same, and they all played the same way.
Miller Wicks were definitely for the Britannia, it was the way ahead. The sound for a Miller Wick comes from African Blackwood. We were taught how to tune the flute, we were taught how to oil the flute, and we adapted that for our own sound. And then we cut the notes every single time that we hit a note. I was shouting and bawling like a lunatic. I was saying, cut the notes, cut the notes. We had music in front of us, we had all the ABCs in front of us, and we said, I'm not caring with that, because I wanted to hear a different kind of sound. The Miller Wick went and gave us that sound for the simple reason I was asking the Cambuslang Britannia to cut their notes. Cut their notes. As soon as they hit a note, cut the note.
In 2009, after 30 years of practicing in orange halls, social clubs, community halls and schools, the band realised a long-held ambition. We managed to rent our own hall in Tabernacle Lane, Cambuslang. After many months of hard work, we moved into the premises in 2010 and held our first band practice.
I remember getting it, that was cool. Worked very hard to get the money for it. When we got there, it was a shock. It was kind of rubbish. We had to go in, we had to clear it out, paint it, flare it, ceilings, and then we made it ours. And it was great. Really enjoyed having to work on it. That's what made it ours. There's nothing better than the first hall.
That was a massive step, and the loss of that hall was a big blow to us all.
The first band hall was great. I thought it was a great idea. It was going to give the band a lot of scope and improvement for practices 7 nights a week, 5 nights a week, whatever was needed, bringing in some revenue, also a place for band members to meet, wives, friends, family, all to meet, congregate and socially and enjoy themselves. But it was a great thing.
I wasn't actually in the band, but I was brought down by members in the band, and I thought it was a cracking wee place with a wee homely fire, a good atmosphere, and kind of gutted it was destroyed.
The first band hall was a big rectangular building, absolutely massive. I mean, you went in, it was full of old machines, but the man that owned the place actually had sold them to Govan, or lent them out to Govan, and they came over and they stripped him out. One machine in particular was really funny. They were all meant to be switched off, and this guy decided he wasn't waiting to find out, and you get a pair of snips, wire snips, and they just snipped the wires, and you could play from one side of the room to the other. And we just stood and watched them as they got back up all shaking. They finally got the machines out. There was a lot of work to be done. We had a ceiling to fix, we had flooring to fix. The flooring actually wobbled due to the weight of this big machine that had been on it for years. But that was all fixed, and we got it all painted, put boards up on the walls. It was amazing, it was absolutely beautiful when we'd finished it. and it was brilliant because we went in there, we could play pool, darts, we had competitions, we brought in bands. It was just a nice hall. It was a pity about the arson attack.
First band hall, I thought it was absolutely amazing. We got invited, I think it was, I'm no Rangers man. Rangers went invited us to go, I don't know, somewhere in America. And the band said, we're going to go and do it. And at the exact same time, this thing came up where we thought, hold on a second. There was a wee unit in Cambuslang, and we thought, imagine we were in. We worked hard at it, so we did, and then we were seeing no really a lot where people were coming into a place we were sitting at, and they were bevying and all the rest of it, and I thought personally, if we were in place to come in, shut the doors off, and then we could take it from there. A place came up in Cambuslang, and we jumped on it. And we jumped on it, so we did, and I'm so glad we did. It was some of the best times ever that I've been with a band.
The hall was destroyed by an arson attack in March 2011. The saddest part of this destruction was the loss of their colours and banneret. Before their first parade of the year, the colours had been replaced. A ladies' lodge in England donated a set of standards. The band now parade with St George's Cross in thanks and recognition of their generosity. Once more, the Whole Park Social Club offered us the use of their facilities, and we had accepted, but it was not the same, and the search for a new hall had begun. Within a matter of weeks, the band were on the move to new premises, and a new era was now about to begin.
To me, the second hall was a lot more like home. I remember the first day we got the keys. I came in, myself and another couple of members, and this place it looked condemned. It was a mobility scooter place apparently that some guy walked out of. It was, you couldn't move when you walked in the door. It was minging. It was a horrible place. And for that first day, just like the guys done previously in the hall before it, we crafted, we cleaned up, we painted, washed down the floors, ceilings, turned it into our new home. And for me it means a lot more because I was there for day one. And we're proud of what we've done and where we are. It's been a lot of hard graft, but it's worth it.
Thoughts in the second hall was where the loss of the first hall was a big blow. The fact that we got the second hall as quickly and we were practising it 5 weeks later shows a massive commitment in the members of the band to the band.
Smaller. But again, worked in it, worked hard at it, and we've made it around. And believe it or not, it's better. Better than the first one.
The second hall for me, I didn't like to start with. I wanted to actually get the first hall done back up again and move back, but I went to a vote and the vote decided it was too dodgy, so we moved to the hall we're in just now. And after a bit of work, which was really needed, we gutted it out first, then we done all the work, and now we're in. And it's a nice wee hall, but it's small and it's not a great shape.
I got a phone call one day and the police wouldn't let me down the line. Broke my heart. Then I was charging about in the motor. I was driving about and I said, I would love us to have another hall. I went down to an investment park in Cambuslang, and the most bizarre thing ever was I drove down to this place where we're sitting now, obviously, and I seen this person arguing with another person, and I thought, I said to my partner, I said, I wonder what's going on there. And I watched and I watched and I watched. This was the person who owns the building. Pat him. This person out of the building. And I thought, there's an in there for the Britannia. And I went and said, phoned him. His number was on the front of the building. I went and phoned him. And I went and said, listen, I don't know who you are. You don't know me. He knew of me. He knew my friends. And I used a couple of my friends. I used a couple of my pals to say, I would like to do this in one of your units. And we ended up with the band hall that we've got in now.
The khaki colour had become the symbol of identification for many, and as the jackets became worn, the band took to wearing khaki shirts with the badges on the sleeves and Britannia printed over the left breast pocket. These were good for the summer, but left us feeling the chills with the more wintry weather, and so a new uniform was called for, and once more we returned to our roots with a blue tunic and black trousers in 2012. Using the Scots Guards uniform as a guide, the change had taken the public by surprise, and as people that had been following us for years stood waiting on the Britannia passing, they failed to realise that we already had.
The blue uniforms was as anything, it was a decision with the majority of the band. My feeling on it was we had a lot of sort of different variations of khaki uniforms, and a lot of the older boys in the band preferred that because it identified and made us different. My thoughts were the way we started playing, we changed our style of playing, stuff like that, and I thought it was time for a change. Uniforms, sort of Scots Guard style with the blue uniforms was for me the perfect change. The uniforms looked cracking when we got them.
I like the new uniform because it's smart. It's slightly a different blue, but again, when we were the khaki green, we were the weird Russian looking guys, so that's what set us apart. I'd prefer to stay there, be separate, look different, but again, still like the blue. It's better, eventually.
Prince William got married to Kate Middleton just at the time when we were thinking of changing uniforms, and it was a nice red uniform, Scots Guards officer, and we liked it, but we didn't like the red colour. We wanted something different. A lot of the people wanted to plumb back and go back to khaki with it, and the others decided we'd like to try blue, and that's what we done. We took the blue, we get the 3 buttons of the Scots Guards, the black trousers and the boots and the hats, and a very, very smart uniform. There's no badges on it, but that was by design. The tailor even said we should have badges, but we didn't want badges. It was different again for everybody else. And the first time we wore it, we walked along the street, and the people that knew us were actually standing, and we walked by them, they didn't even recognise us. And it was further up the hill that they noticed that we had passed. One of them came up and says, "I've been standing down there waiting on yous. I was expecting a khaki colour." So it just goes to show that people knew us for khaki. The following year there would be a major change. The Miller Wicks were now passing their best, and through wear and tear were battered and broken, and for this reason the band purchased new Peter Worrell flutes.
Where the Miller Wick were a good flute, the Peter Worrells are a much better flute. So it was a big step forward for the band to upgrade their flutes.
They look a lot sharper, a lot nicer. They sound a bit better.
In the new band hall we were broken into, and the thieves got away with an amount of cash, some drink, a couple of old jackets. I don't know the reason for taking them, and they also stole some flutes. And this meant that people were short of flutes, so we had to do something drastic, and we decided we need to buy new flutes, so we bought Peter Worrells. These flutes are different from what we've had before, and the aftercare is amazing. It took a wee bit of time to get them blown in, but we took them and we first played them at the Shankill Road Defenders competition, and what a tune, what a sound off these flutes, they were amazing. The changes didn't stop there, as a decision was made to try our hand at something new. Obtaining the services of David Hartness as a tutor, the band headed into the unknown territory of melody fluting.
For us, when we just first started the melody, being a drummer, it was a lot of bowling long practices where we didn't hit a drum. We listened to obviously the guys in the flutes trying to learn a new style of play. A lot of guys were getting frustrated. These things happen when you change. Again, from a drum perspective, it was a massive change. We were used to blood and thunder, which we always done, where everybody was constantly hitting a drum, making a noise, to going to where you're coming out of tunes, you're barely hitting a drum. It was a massive, massive change. But it came together nicely and it sounded sweet, isn't it?
When I joined the band, it was strictly blood and thunder. Just let's give it to them. But then we thought, no, we'll change it up, do something different. We tried melody. And I didn't like it at first, but I got to it and I thought, no, this is really good. This is the next step.
Gave the band a totally new outlook, something to focus on, rather than just your normal blood and thunder as it had been started as.
I did. I thought I'd always known the band as Blood and Thunder, and it was coming down to watch practice and the melody and seeing their faces. It was a direction I never thought would happen, but I thoroughly enjoyed coming down to listen to them practice from the day one onwards.
There was a chance where I spoke to somebody and he said you should bring somebody in and try and see how far you can take yourself as a marching band. Well, we did. I asked the Britannia, listen, can we shove this a wee bit? Can we break it up? Can we stop cutting the notes? Can we just look at a music score and read the score? And the Britannia said, aye. Nah, so I took it one step further. I brought somebody in who said to us the very first day he walked in and done, I want to take you to a competition in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland, I thought, we're for the schemes. We're for the schemes in Cambuslang. And he went and says, I can show you some music that will be written for yous. Nobody else will play them. And I thought, this will be good. This will be good. And one of the most exciting, one of the best experiences ever was Shankill Road Defenders. We turned the Cambuslang Britannia upside down, so we did. And I will never ever forget that.
I enjoyed the melody flute. At first I didn't like it. I thought, this is something different. And the way it was played, it just seemed odd. But then, when you started getting into it and you're hearing all the different parts coming together, it was just incredible to hear. And it was good to actually be a part of. After a period of just 6 months, we entered into the Shankill Road Defenders competition in Carrickfergus, which was famous for hosting the top echelon of melody bands, and in a short space of time we had arrived with the drum section receiving a third prize and the band being congratulated on what was classed as an overwhelming successful start.
The Shankill Road Defenders competition was just to be in the same stage as some of the bands. We sat there and we watched people like the William King play before us, and they were that different class. That was a totally different class to us. But just to be there in the same room on the same stage and to get a mention for drum section, obviously, it made the whole trip worthwhile.
It was a standout. It was an emotional day for everybody. I mean, there was members of the band leaving the stage in tears. There was members of the audience in tears. and it was well received. I think we rattled a lot of cages that, you know, what was expected to be a bloody thunder band from Scotland could go over and sit down amongst some of the best in the land and perform like that.
I've got two recollections of the SRD. The first was after 6 months solid practice, watching the band on the stage performing, and then going round to greet them and watching adults actually tears in their eyes just for the relief of all the practice they had done and the way they performed. The second recollection is definitely watching us getting a prize and seeing Andy Everett's face, just the release. To see that was a brilliant moment.
We went to the Shingle Road competition, and we went up on that stage, wee bit of nerves, but we all calmed down and we started playing, and then we get the audience on our side, and we could hear them clapping and cheering, and some of the songs they were singing along, and you were like, wow, what an experience to come here and to be received in such a manner, even though you knew there was other bands coming that had been doing this for years. It was still a thrill for us to do this. And the drums got us, like I mentioned, we got a third prize, and the Flutes were told that we were absolutely outstanding, which brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, especially me.
I can remember we played our set, and we got a very, very good reception. And when we were going off, one of our lifelong members, he was standing at the door of the stage, and he shook everybody's hand, and I thought, that's not like him, that isn't like him. Usually I would do that. There's a lot of times when I would say, we done this, or we done that, or we played very, very well. And that's when I realised how far we'd came. When he was shaking everybody's hand, I came off the stage, and I seen him doing that to everybody. And I kind of got a wee bit emotional. And the next band on to do that contest, said to us, they went and said to me, here mate, I've not seen that much emotion for a long time.
I would just like to say a happy 40th anniversary to the bands, and looking forward to another 40 more years. All the best.
40 years, long time. Been a lot of, I say I've been in a band now 7 years. Fair play to the boys that have been here since the start. We've had members come and go, we've had one hall burned down, we've had one hall broken into, but we're still here and we're not going anywhere. We'll always go on the street, we'll always have a band, and here's to the next 40 years.
I can only hope they go from strength to strength, as I'm sure they will. They've had a lot of different people run them over the last 40 years, and I'm quite sure everybody that's been in the position of running them has done their very best to the best they think they can achieve. And if you keep a band on the road for 40 years, you must have done something right. So apart from that, all I can really say is, Roll Britannia.
It's been a long time, a lot of hard work. We all deserve a big pat on the back. But we need to keep our heads screwed and keep going. Congratulations everybody.
40 years on the road. I think everybody knows it's financially, time, everything, to do anything in life now, but to be on the road for 40 years is absolutely fantastic, and a long way to continue, hopefully another 40 and then another 40. So, Royal Britannia.
Yeah, I hope to be here many years, and I hope the band will go strength to strength, and nothing but admiration for them all, and I hope for the next 40 years they'll still be here.
Yeah, I'd like to wish the band a happy 40th anniversary and in conquering 40 years.
I'd just like to say congratulations to the band, and hopefully it continues much longer.
1975, I had various bands, I'd played with various bands, I did a lot of things, right? I got to 75 and I thought, it's the end of my tenure. I cannot go guessing my bonds, playing my bonds and the time was right in Cambuslang that I felt, right? And what I done was, I put myself out in the land, maybe not so much, but I put myself out and I thought, I'm going to start my own band, right? I'm no, I don't believe I'm a big-headed person. I just felt the time was right, go for it. And we did it. No, I didn't do it, we did it, right? A lot of good boys and a lot of laughs and an awful lot of laughs over the years. Some heartaches, we can't deny that. But to think after 40 years, I mean, even after 30 years, 10 years ago, there is no way in my lifetime that anybody else, I wouldn't have imagined with the Britannia Flute band. It can never be surpassed. 10 years ago, we ended up, we formed basically what was left of the old boys, you know what I mean? And we had a brilliant day. But to say the young boys, the new boys in Britannia, I love yous all, I respect yous all, I'll always be there, right? I'll always be there. And I just wish the boys, the young boys, I mean, a lot of these young boys don't know me, don't know Archie, you know what I mean? I don't know a lot of the older boys. But in saying it, we've got to look, and what I see for the future is brilliant. And I'm really, really chuffed. And it makes me proud. Truthfully, it makes me proud to know that some wee monster I maybe created 40 years ago is still going strong and even getting better. And I'm dead chuffed. When I see you walking down the street, boys, I'm always going to be proud, and I'm always going to be chuffed. And I'd like to thank the boys for giving me this this time to come down and express my my feelings towards Britannia Flute Band.
People in 1975 decided they were going to start a band. We're making sure that continues, and the Cambuslang Britannia will be here for a long time.
I would just like to say what an amazing experience and roller coaster ride this band has been. When I first joined there was 7 flutes. I've seen it going up to 18 flutes. We're back down at times to 9 and 8. But it's amazing to see the camaraderie and the people all willing this band forward. And I would just like to say congratulations on reaching 40. And I know I'll only be here, but I hope that we get another 40 years at least under our belts, and I hope we go from strength to strength. And it's been a wonderful experience for me. I'd just like to say thanks.